We're at our lowest home ownership rate. Percentage of transactions are around 24% of transactions are first-time homeowners. That used to hover around 33 to 36%. That means there's about like 600,000 homes a year or more where people are almost there, but they're kind of being squeezed out. Then you've got the median age at 38. 38 is the median age for a first-time home buyer. That used to be 31 before, and it used to then be below 30. I can't tell you how many people we've encountered who are one conversation or one down payment program or one strategy away from ownership. And literally, they'll be sitting there. They'll say, I've been thinking about this for 5 to 10 years, which is crazy to me because then you start to calculate how much the time they've lost out, the equity they've lost out, and all of that.
Brace yourself for a wild ride into the unexpected. This ain't your typical success show. I'm here talking to real folks who've been through it all, skipping the fancy business talk for authentic stories. We're diving into childhood dreams, teenage escapades, and everything in between. No scripts, just the stories that truly mold success. Each episode takes you on a journey through those breakthrough moments that paved their way. No fluff, just genuine stories. So whether you're chasing dreams or just love a good story, buckle up for wisdom, laughs, and the unexpected. This is the Breakthrough Podcast, where success is a journey, not just some fancy destination. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button now and join our Breakthrough crew. I got some incredible stories to share, and you won't want to miss a single one. All right, everybody, today I've got a really special guest on the show, Niles Lichtenstein. Niles is out of the Bay Area, and he's doing some pretty amazing things in Silicon Valley. He's the CEO and founder of Nestment. Now, a lot of you out there probably go, oh, real estate, another one. But this is something completely different. This is a platform for people to find creative ways to get into home ownership. His origin story is pretty crazy. He and his wife were living in San Francisco, working good jobs, but they couldn't afford a home. So instead of just accepting that, they went out and found an unconventional way to purchase a home. This is a guy who's not just teaching theory, he's lived it. He's passionate about helping people find real solutions. And that's the whole philosophy behind Nestment. What they're doing is providing an amazing solution for people to get into these high cost of living areas. And that's something that really hits home with me. I mean, here in the Bay Area, a lot of people think $200,000 is a great income, but it's not enough to buy a house. This is what Niles is solving. He's all about creating opportunities for people. And I just think that's awesome. Let's get into it. Right on. Niles.
Hey, Steven.
How's it going, buddy?
Good. It's a sunny day in San Francisco. The fog is actually clearing up a little bit.
You're not getting the summer fog, waiting for September to hit?
Oh, man, it's been a cold summer, so these last couple days have been nice.
Yeah, the summer's been pretty mellow this year.
Totally.
We haven't had any hot days, really.
Yeah, I mean, especially where you guys are in San Jose, too. It can be about 10, 15 degrees warmer, so.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, in San Francisco, it just really depends on where you are in San Francisco. Like the Mission District has such a different climate than other parts of San Francisco.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
They say it's like 30 microclimates in a 7x7.
I know, that's so crazy, right?
It's nuts. It gives the city an interesting kind of flavor. Each neighborhood's a little unique and in its own village. Now, obviously, Gen Z is not drinking as much, but back in the day, I think San Francisco was like per capita was the biggest like Scotch and whiskey drinkers. If you ask distributors, just because the fog would roll in, it was just a very
really
dark liquor type of city.
Did you hang out a lot in San Francisco in like the late 90s, early 2000s?
I didn't. I was still in school at that time, but yeah, it kind of come to the 2010s or so was like my era, right? And so yeah, and it's been curtailing, I feel like, the drinking in general.
Yeah.
So
boy,
did you spend some time then
in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My pretty much all of 90s were in San Francisco.
Oh, dude, that must have been such a good time. I hear about the 90s in San Francisco.
Yeah, it was really crazy. When I graduated high school, it was summer of 89.
Wow.
And I went on a date and we went to San Francisco. She's like, hey, I'm taking you to San Francisco. We're going to some modern rock club. I'm like, all right, cool. And so we went to this modern rock club and this guy came up to me and passed me a little flyer. She's like, what is that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, well, it's kind of like a block away. And we went to it, and it was an underground party. And that
Nice.
was right when raves were starting in San
Oh my
Francisco.
God. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we went to that party. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. We show up, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is crazy. And that was it.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
it. I was up in San Francisco literally for a decade straight.
Amazing.
Like,
Amazing.
it was so much fun in San Francisco back then, going to like Hate Street for
Mhm.
festivals, just the
Yeah.
festivals, gay pride, just all the
Yeah.
DJing, boat parties, beach parties.
Sure.
It was a wild time. Heck, even where the giant stadium is, China Basin, that was all warehouses.
Wow.
That whole thing, like where
That
the
must have been
stadium,
where a lot of the raves were at then, right?
that's where all the raves, well, not all, but a lot of them were in that area.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of clubs that were off right by
Nice.
the water.
Yep.
And then where the San Francisco Stadium is
Yeah.
on Townsend across the
Yep.
street,
Yep.
that was one of the biggest clubs in all of San Francisco in the
Wow.
90s.
That's
And
amazing.
then where the stadium was, it was like a dirt parking lot. And you would park your car out there, and you'd just be going, we'll see if it's there.
Man, that's amazing. No, that sounds incredible. I remember because I was starting to go out right when the rave era was starting, when we were getting in trouble in high school and getting in when we shouldn't have, like things of that nature. And I just remember just being amazed because, I was coming over from the East Bay and every San Francisco had a little bit of everything. And then you just get like these incredible bands like a Green Day or whoever else, right?
Yeah.
Just like coming up to the caning shop. There's a really unique heritage out here in the Bay Area around,
Yes.
music and arts and entertainment and sports. And it's interesting to watching. Obviously, San Francisco has been in the media a lot and so forth. And pre-COVID, it was a little bit like assisted living for millennials for a while, right? It was very much like, okay, the city had turned into a place where it was not the main attraction anymore. It was actually jobs that were the main attraction in tech, and that was really interesting. Now, no fault of anybody there. It was just that's where a lot of the jobs were. And then obviously, when COVID hit, it became a little bit of a dystopian theme park experience for a little while, right? But the feeling in San Francisco, which is interesting because I was kind of here around that time where Facebook's starting to grow, all those other companies are starting to grow. Like now with AI and so forth, it's pretty fascinating. My house is here in Nob Hill and my office is in South Park. And South Park was dead maybe a year ago. Now you walk around there, there's like robotic dogs and like, like all kinds of stuff. Obviously, all your Waymos going around and just like,
Yeah, that's so
you're sitting
crazy.
there. I go to my daughter, hey, are you excited to drive one day? And she's 6, right? She has 10 years. I was like, you're 10 years away from driving. She's like, Dad, I'm gonna just be in a Waymo. I was like, all right, that makes sense, right? No reason.
And that's San Francisco for you. It's always at this like edgy forefront of things.
Yeah,
And shit, it's been going on since the 60s,
for sure.
and like it just every decade has a different vibe. And like they're usually in the very beginning of something great that kind of
Totally,
like explodes. It's kind of
totally,
interesting like that. And it has its rough points. I mean, San
for sure.
Francisco, it's had some problems
Oh
to the
yeah.
point that I didn't want to go up there. And that's kind
No,
of it's really bad
it's
to say.
embarrassing to have family and friends here, right? Like it's one of these things where we were big proponents of the new mayor, Dan Laurie. We were throwing events for him and before he was super popular too, my wife and I. And what I liked was the kind of practical progressivism, right? It's where like, let's be real. Like if you want to have your kids here, right, in a family, your cars can't get broken into, right? There can't be feces on the street. Things like that are pretty common sense. And so I feel like there's always going to be, if you're innovating and you're disrupting and you're doing these things, there's always going to be some negative externalities from that. But like, there's also got to be some parameters around it too. So yeah, no, I mean, I think we've dug in our heels. I think the other thing that's interesting is the people that stayed during that kind of exodus really decided to say San Francisco is a place I want to be. And that type of thing really just kind of creates a sense of community, right? And it creates a sense of we're going to be here, we're down to make this city something special again. And so I think there's a little bit of that energy going on, which is really 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 cool.
Yeah,
So
and you could feel it for the last year. And you're right. I think the whole AI revolution is really it's like the second tech wave up there,
oh
so
yeah.
to speak.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you talk a lot about rental properties and it's what's really interesting too is like with a lot of the rental properties that I have, it's like we're getting a lot of young people who want to rent. It's interesting too because I showed the one zip code. So this building we have here is just we could talk more about like Nestment and house hacking and all that stuff that we focus on in a
That's
sec.
gonna
But
be
like,
cool.
yeah, I mean, this building we have here is a triplex in Nob Hill. So, we've got a couple thousand square feet on the top from family and I and a garden and stuff. And then, but, we rent out the other units below and we never have an issue with renting, especially. And what's interesting is the 94109 area code, specifically around Nob and Russian Hill, ended up doing incredibly well, largely because it's near financial district, right? So you have a lot of like people working there, but also it's near a lot of bars and restaurants. And also it has that San Francisco charm. What we're finding is that, people actually rather choose a little bit of that San Francisco charm with some renovations than necessarily the brand new condo look,
Hmm.
which is interesting, especially if you're only going to be here for a few years, right? And then move on. You really want to be kind of in the neighborhoods and in the communities. So it was interesting to see that in general. But yeah, very interesting things to just kind of notice.
Yeah, and especially in San Francisco, it's all about, I mean, yeah, it's great to have a renovated property that you're living in, either you own or rent, but it's that neighborhood vibe that you get.
For sure.
It's the coffee shop, the bakery, the little park, the clothing store. It's
Exactly.
like going in Hayes Valley. Like you find your little area and you're like, yeah, this is cool. My gym's over here. This, you know what I mean? Like you have
Yep.
everything.
For
It's
sure,
it's
dude.
pretty cool up there. You just
Yeah.
have to know all the little cool little locations too.
Definitely. Well, come up here sometime. We'll hang. I'd love to host.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. So you're basically house hacking.
I'm house hacking. I mean, Nestment itself, if you don't mind, I'll share a little bit more, right? Our focus has always been around how do we build the new on-ramps for ownership for Gen Z and millennial first-time home buyers, right? So, and some of those are more non-traditional, right? And some of those can still be traditional, but with support from new and innovative financing structures and things of that nature. But it goes back to just this concern, and we see this here in the Bay Area, right, Stephen, is just like the access to being able to own is very difficult, right? So we have San Jose Earthquake players who are on our platform. Like we've been working with the MLS and so forth because they're like, we make professional dollars, but it's still hard to afford San Jose, right? And we don't make what NBA players make, but it's fascinating to just see that. So this started for me really as a notion that a belief that if you want to own, you should be able to own, and that you should be able to own in the places that you live and work and so forth. And just that obviously your home asset is the key for a lot of folks to, and there's studies on this, mental, physical, and obviously financial stability, even for your kids and so forth, like the difference between being in a household that's renting versus owning. And so for me, I grew up in the East Bay and my father passed away when I was pretty young. And my mom was a widowed immigrant with two boys, no job, not a ton of savings, but we had a home, right? And it had appreciated in value. I mean, we were very fortunate and privileged to have a home. And so learned how to refinance a house pretty early on in life, like 13. And then my mom, she's smart.
13?
Yeah, yeah, and my mom's smart and
God.
scrappy, right? So like, if you have immigrant parents, they're always like, we
Yeah.
used to live in 10 people to 2 rooms. So she was like, wait, can we rent out some of the bedrooms and you guys can move into the office space and stuff like that? We were doing whatever we could to hang on to the property. And interestingly enough, we ended up renting out the rooms to international grad students at UC Berkeley. And it was a fascinating upbringing because you had Swedish physicists and Mexican,
Oh, that's cool.
architects, and just like outside sharing bathrooms and then having to move into the office space, like it was fine, right? Like, and for kids, it was great. But I think the biggest thing is it gave us a sense of stability, and that asset led to a lot of the certainty for us not having to move and things like that. And that always stuck with me. Went to Harvard for undergrad, came back to the Bay after the first startup was acquired, was fortunate to have some capital. And that's when my cousins in Oakland were basically like, you're the reason we can't afford Oakland. So it was like, okay, well, what if we buy a triplex together? What if we kind of all go in together? And that started to happen more with family and friends and started to say, okay, well, now we can look at primary multifamily. We can get a primary home loan, so a better rate. We can live there, get some of the tax deductions, but we can also rent part of it out, get the other types of tax deductions. And I think the most amazing thing was with that particular property refinancing in early 22 before rates went up and everyone gets a sizable check, right? But now, and that goes to their next primary home, but they also now have a rental property. So just kind of repeated that process of just these different ways to do things. And I had a whole staff for my second startup and they were like, we want to buy too, right? We want to own. They were in different markets, whether in SoCal or New York or Midwest or here. And so all credit goes to them because they were like, what if we took all of these tools and started to throw it out there? And like I tell anybody with an idea, just throw a landing page out, flight some Instagram ads, maybe do a LinkedIn campaign, see if people will really sign up for it without a product that exists. Don't overthink it and over engineer it. And so next thing you need,
That's a good
people,
point.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
a really good point.
yeah, I mean, it's just like, you think about things, you think everything's precious. Oh, someone's going to steal my idea. No, you got to go out and test and learn. And, our first notion was around co-buying, right? So it was around this notion that you have a generation that's more open to purchasing with family and friends, right? And I believe one day we'll have kind of matching, but right now I think it has to stay within those circles, family and friend circles. And since I had been through it a few times and so forth, and we put it out there and people signed up for a product that didn't exist, right? So then now we were doing like hundreds of conversations with people just to say what is getting you there, why are you so interested, and it really evolved into this fascinating just study, frankly, on
Mm. Mm.
where people were at in life. Like, I can't think of one other thing where the desire is so high, but the reality is so low. So, like in this country right now, right, we're at our lowest home ownership rate. Percentage of transactions are around 24% of transactions are first time homeowners. That used to hover around 33 to 36%. That means there's about like 600,000 homes a year or more where people are almost there, but they're kind of being squeezed out. Then you've got the median age at 38. 38 is the median age for a first time home buyer. That used to be 31 before, and it used to then be below 30. And then obviously the most consequential probably is that the wealth gap between owners and renters is growing. But at the same time, you look at the other reports, and like Bank of America does this like sentiment study, and home ownership is actually for the first time ranks above both were marriage, kids, and even career fulfillment. So you've got like 75% wanting it over those things. You have 85% of renters wanting to buy. You have 60% of Gen Z saying we're open to other models. And so what we really kind of discovered at Nestment was, hey, let people come as they are and let's leverage technology tools and a human kind of planner or coordinator to put them down a journey and a roadmap that will help them determine, okay, what's the right path, right? What is the right way? We have a huge amount of people who do what we call primary multifamily. So Weldon and John, two close friends who graduated from college, got good jobs, and were like, yeah, I should be able to afford with my wife a single family home in Oakland. They're like, no, it's 10 years later. It feels like the goalposts are moving. Well, ultimately, the system shows them that they could actually buy a 4 unit, live in 2 units,
Qualify
leverage
with the
the new,
rent.
exactly. Not even with FHA, they have ended up leveraging the new Fannie program, 5% down, right?
Yeah.
Without as much stringent PMI. And they were renting out too, subsidizing it, and so forth. And we have tons of examples, multi-generational, et cetera, because of the arbitrage between the 20 to 30% less per square foot that you're purchasing for, and then your ability to rent it out. So that's been a pretty big group. There's another, obviously I know you talk a lot about this with folks, but the second group is what we call rent investors. And they're folks like Selena and Wade, two single friends in Brooklyn who like wanted to own in Brooklyn, but just our models were showing that they wouldn't be able to for a while, right? Based on where they were at. So they end up buying up in Hudson Valley, right? And they'll get a short-term rental. They feel like homeowners. They feel empowered. They're up there 30% of the time. It's paying for itself, plus it's gaining equity. And someone like Selena, who felt overwhelmed by this process before she started, now actually is on to her second one, right? In
Yeah.
Kingston, New York, right? And so you see all of that. And then there's just your single primary families where it's like a couple or an individual who wants to buy, but they just feel a bit overwhelmed or intimidated, or they don't know that there's a down payment program that's going to work for them, or they've seen all the headlines. But when they actually have just someone to say, like, have you thought about this, or in a system, in a platform to do that? And, here's the math, like our system will take in any Zillow or Redfin link and then help look at it and break it all down and leverage core logic data to say, here's the equity you'll also be building over time. Here's what happens if you trade in your rent and now you own. So I think there really is this desire for us right now to build this kind of ownership operating system in a way.
It's really cool. And a lot of it just really comes down to people typically don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And then if somebody like lays out a roadmap of a bunch of different scenarios, then they're like, oh, I didn't really realize I could do that. I only thought I have to do 20% down. Or if I did FHA, my payment's going to be really high. So that's not going to work because I'm
Yeah.
not going to qualify. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different moving parts, but the minute somebody can present some new opportunities and a different way to look at things to just get into the game is really powerful, especially with like multi-units. I think a lot of people want to either they want to start off with a condo or a single family. They think multi-unit, it's more properties, more issues, more things to manage, more things to break.
Yeah.
Then they don't realize that they can get a big chunk of that mortgage covered and actually be doing better than they were doing when they were renting.
Yeah, I mean
It's so
that's the thing,
crazy.
and then they move on, and then they can rent out the whole thing, and then they can have it managed. I mean, one thing I tell people is that if you do the math, if you're less worried about the cash flow, more interested in the equity and also the fact that you're not paying rent and because you're not getting anything back for that rent, right? You could have it property managed for you, including your own unit too. It's like almost having your own super, right? Like
Right, right,
I
right.
do that, right? Like I have a property management group who manages the different properties. They also manage my unit, so it's my honey-do list is a lot shorter, right?
Right, right.
And
Takes
I've
you
been
out of
there.
the equation too. You know
Yeah,
what I
well,
mean?
I've
Like,
been there when I know what it's like because I've managed, had to manage, and had to do the fixes and had to do this. And then you get to a point where you're just like, no. But yeah, man, we rely on great lenders, great agents. We work across brokerages and across lenders and so forth. But what I think really is unique about this moment in time is that the level of complexity, the level of it's just not a given that you're going to be able to afford. You're usually getting to the brink of what you can finance and afford, but just knowing those things. So having one single journey where we're bringing you in the lender, the agent, and saying, "Hey, if these folks don't work out, we've got other people," or empowering you, right? And everyone's on the same page, which is, I
yeah,
think,
that's
the big
cool.
part. It's like, "Hey, here's Weldon and John. They're looking at primary multifamily. Let's make sure they've got the right kind of lender who's going to understand and leverage that rental income to increase their loan amounts. Let's make sure that we've got an agent. We'll pick agents who have actually done this themselves, right? Who understand and can look at a situation and say, actually, although it praises 4 units, that laundry room could be a fifth potentially, right?
Right. Or,
If
or you
you
can
need,
build an ADU and you
yeah,
can
you
do
could build an
this.
ABU, right? SV. So yeah, I mean, I think there's this world. Some of our customers joke that like we're like wedding planners, but instead of your big day, it's your big purchase, right? And so that's kind of always stuck with me when someone said that. And then the question is like, how do you mix human? Always, there's got to be kind of some human support, but then also more agentic kind of Gen AI workflows to the process because people are okay with that as long as you tell them, hey, the system's going to help kind of figure some of these things out, but then you're going to check in with this human to say, okay, here's how these things work. And then there's going to be this other human there who's helping you through that process. So,
Probably a good time for your company right now with the AI. It really is like, it's like having 500 employees
I mean,
that could do a bunch of stuff.
well, and here's the thing with a lot of the real estate stuff, it's a data matching game. I can't tell you how many people we've encountered who are one conversation or one down payment program or one strategy away from ownership. And literally, they'll be sitting there. They'll say, I've been thinking about this for 5 to 10 years, which is crazy to me because then you start to calculate how much
Time.
the time they've lost out, the equity they've lost out on, and all of that. But then it shows up in the data that your median first time home buyer's age is 38, right? Because they've been worrying for 5 to 10 years.
That's so
Because
crazy.
if you looked at what 20%, if you only thought that 20% was the way that you could make it work, that used to be 35% of a boomer's salary, annual salary, right? It's around 80% of a millennial's salary for that 20% down, and they're already paying 30+% in rent every year too. So the math doesn't really math. I think, and for us, it's like not everything has to come for us. There's tons of amazing innovations out there happening on the finance side, happening on and what we kind of see ourselves is this layer, this orchestration layer that says, okay, yeah, we'll vet land lease options, we'll vet shared equity options, right? And bring it to you as a consumer. But let's see if we can get you through the conventional routes, right? That are probably the safest routes and see what we can do there because there's a lot of interesting options there, but also becoming kind of this credible channel for some of these of new models that are coming out as well.
So walk me through a person that lands on your website. What
Yeah.
what are they doing first?
Yeah, so the first thing we have is an interactive or engaging quiz. Well, they have a couple routes. One, they could just kind of give us a little bit of information. We'll call them and capture this information. The other thing they can do, a lot of people don't like calls, right? So we have an engaging kind of quiz that just tries to connect with you and say, hey, judgment free zone here. Where are you right now? What are the things that you're looking at and interested in? And it captures that data that goes to our system. And actually, what's coming out in just a sec is then it will match you and say, hey, here's a set of strategies. Here's the annual appreciation in the area you're looking in. Have you thought about primary multifamily? Have you thought about these down payment programs? And then it will prepare you with what we call a coordinator. So, similar to the wedding planner, there's a wedding coordinator who's like the day to day operations. Our system's the planner. The actual person there is your coordinator. Some may think of it as a concierge, and it's
I was
crazy.
just gonna say that.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
such the first thing I think, I'm like, "Wait, this is like a concierge for real estate in a way." Like, that's brilliant.
I mean, I think we're gonna end up starting to call it concierge because if you think about it, for everyone, this is the largest purchase of their life. And the fact that they don't have a concierge for the largest purchase of their life is crazy to me.
Yeah, that just right when you said that, I was like, "Oh, this is like it's perfect." Because concierge is basically help put that team together just to give you more strength, more clarity
Yep.
on an approach
Yeah. I mean,
that you
that's
thought was not
exactly right.
there, that
So
you
so
didn't
it
have.
goes understand folks, understand where they're at, then give them a set of strategies. Honestly, some of it to them is like, hey, let's work on credit repair first. Here's a couple partners that work on credit, right? Because let's get you to where you need to. And so part of the dashboard, I'm excited because I'm about to products just doing UAT right now, but I don't know if you ever had those like Marvel trading cards where it showed your strength at different levels, like speed, strength, right? Like intellect, whatever it was, right? They were different adjustments, but helping people through in looking at kind of credit, ability to finance, et cetera, and saying none of these are bad, none of these are about judgments, right? These are about putting you on the right path, right? So then you're connected with your strategy. And once you select a strategy, it actually creates a rewards roadmap, right? And what's kind of cool is you can kind of gamify this roadmap. You can say, hey, by the end of this roadmap, I'm going to give you $1,000 at your closing outside of whatever else rewards we're going to give you. But you've got to go through these stages. You've got to meet with your Nestment concierge. You've got to go and get pre-approved. A lot of people, and we celebrate their pre-approval, by the way. Like when they get pre-approved, we send them a bottle of bubbles and we're like, hey, you haven't transacted yet. You're not there,
But
right?
this step,
But this is that really meaningful step. We know what it's like to have to like go through, look at your finances, put that in there. And this is for you to pop when you do finally get that, but just know we're thinking about you, right? So we're thinking
hmm,
about you. So we've introduced them to a lender, then we introduce them to an agent. Sometimes we'll say, hey, do you want to be talk to two or three that we think are the right folks, right? Like this is about you. Don't feel obligated. And then we're really just cheerleaders along the way, right? Until that purchase. And we're there with education that we'll be sending them based on their path. And as they're going through each of those steps, they're earning more rewards and they'll get that $1,000 back. And then the other kind of insane value we give like 10% off furniture once they've purchased, a trust and will from trust and will, like all of these different things. And frankly, we can do it for free, which is amazing because we make enough of the percentage based on our agreements with realtors, and then we have like marketing sponsorships from lenders, so we can actually make this free. Although the one thing that's interesting is people have been kind of like scared of free. People don't always love free, right? And so what we're thinking about doing is actually making it a very not a ton of amount of money, call it like $10-15 a month to invest in yourself doing this, and you can get all that money back once you close. Like you're getting all of that money back. It's about us seeing you be successful through that time, because I can tell you Rocket Mortgage spends $8,000 per loan funded just to market to you. Now, if we find a much more efficient way to get you to the right lender, right agent, if we find a much better way than having someone call you every single day because you filled out some modal online, right? With like, hey, what's going on? Like that type of thing. If we can create a much better user experience, then we have the opportunity to give you some of that money back, take some of the money for ourselves because we're creating this, and make sure that you're an owner. And then, oh, by the way, now you've got your documents up there. We can then read your documents, look at the disclosures via AI, understand what your equity looks like, and help you manage this. When's the roof going to need to be changed? How do you afford that? So there's a whole world in which, Nestment Planner is about getting people to ownership, and then Nestment Manager, which we're releasing next year, will be about making you a successful owner.
I think someone's gonna acquire you.
Well, I'm in it to make as many people
Niles.
homes as
I'm
possible.
sorry, I'm throwing that out there. I'm just that's cool. I think it's a great concept, and honestly, I wouldn't tell you it was if I don't feel like it is, but
I
that's
appreciate
such a great. I think it's really cool. So, I'm really curious too, what markets are you actually in right now?
honestly, we can work in all 50. We've done transactions in about 17 states now.
Okay.
But I would say the markets that we play really heavily in are Bay Area, LA, Seattle, Boston, New York, New Jersey, Colorado, some in Oregon, and Florida and Miami. And we actually have we built the first what we called home buying accelerator, right? And it's actually out there now. I'll give you a link to send out to any of your users too, 'cause they'll get
Okay.
priority access. It's free and it's 5 weeks. And what it is, it's not a heavy lift, but it's about an hour and a half. And each session we go through, the first session is around these different house hacking,
Yeah,
tips. The
cool.
second session is around reading financial projections. Third is around lending and financing. Fourth is around realtor. And then the last is around tax, insurance, and property management. And then at the end, everyone turns in an assignment that we call their Nest. We call the program Nest Gen, like Nest Generation Homeowner. And they write out their Nest Gen narrative. And that narrative is really because they're using the tools, which is cool because they'll pull in a link and they're visualizing. They won't buy that exact home, but they know what it looks like. They know what it feels like, and they have all the data there. And it's created incredibly high conversion rates. We actually pick 10 usually we'll take about 150 folks per cohort. We'll pick 10 to get 1% back on up to 25,000 up to on their home as well. And yeah, I mean, it's a really powerful program that I didn't expect. Largely, it was a test. Again, it's all about
The
experimentation,
testing,
right? Like
yes.
last year, we experimented and we said, okay, well, we're having our conversation. Our concierges are having these conversations, but what if we took 150 at the same time? Also, kind of made them a community, so they're talking to each other too
Right, and learning from each other.
and learning from each other and bring them through this process. And then they're coming out the other side with a visual roadmap and a game plan of what they're doing. And then not all of them are going to transact that month, but 3, 6, 9, 12 months down the road, it becomes incredibly powerful. The other nice thing is we end up having sponsors. We're building it into employers, organizations. Like I just mentioned, we did a
Different
pilot
vendors.
with, yeah. Well, the cool thing is like now, like for instance, we did a pilot with Major League Soccer and United Soccer League, and now we're looking at rolling it out across their players and saying like this is a course that everyone can kind of take. And then we have sponsors who are different lenders or realtors or brokers who will be part of that. We vet and make sure that it's all kind of going to make sure that it's customer advocate first. So yeah, so it's been really fun to kind of take a platform, take an education program, and now this kind of new membership tier called Nestment Key, put them together and have this really incredible kind of package that is just there. I mean, our mission is just like make people homeowners. And like I said, maybe it's starting with your investment for your second home first. Maybe it's your primary multifamily where you're going to be a landlord and an owner, right? Like
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You're kind of turning them into a homeowner slash investor, which another part of this whole arm could be like a second tier phase down the road where you also then guide them on their next investment property, or you
exactly.
get them into another cohort and that community is there. You have all that data and you can nurture them on their whole real estate journey for the next decade, 2 decades.
That Steven, you've kind of hit the nail on the I mean, that's the goal. The goal is, I think we're starting with first time home ownership, honestly, because it's easier to understand and it's less crowded
Sure.
and saying like, hey, we're here for you first time homeowners. Now we've done lots of other people who are not first time homeowners because they leverage the tools and so forth. But you're right, that our goal is, hey, be there when they make that first purchase, release the manager system, which is helping them manage the assets, be there on their second purchase, third purchase, be there on their sales, like all of those things, and really create this kind of operating system for them that really demystifies the process. And we do see that once people feel like a lot more empowered, we're already seeing people do their second and third homes. So it's just great.
Right, because the big problem with real estate in general is it's really fragmented. You have the lender, you have the agent, you have the contractor, you have the handyman, you have the insurance agent, you have all these different phases and steps, right? But if you can get it into
a structure, a one-stop shop where you can even log into a portal and you know that you've already put that in front of you. When you have experts in front of you,
Yep.
it's much easier to make expert decisions
Yeah.
for
I
your
like that.
future.
That's great. That's a great line. I got it.
Well, I mean, it's really true. And I'll give you an example. We were building on a property out in Seattle, and we were having problems with our architect and going through the city to getting our permits. And it just wasn't working. So I pivoted. I got another architect that was more ingrained on all the new laws. And once I met with them, they communicated better right off the bat. They brought new, fresh ideas, right? What they ended up doing was giving me more confidence on my projects.
Mm.
Why? Because they are the expert and they knew everything. So once they gave me the information, it was presented to me. I then could make better decisions to move forward.
Yeah.
But if you have to constantly go and look for that throughout your real estate journey, sometimes you're going to get burned. It's not going to make sense. You're going to have a lot of what ifs. And so it's really cool. Like, I see a lot of things in your business. You're talking to me and I'm already like, my head's going like, oh, they
Yeah,
can
well,
have an
we
arm
need,
here. I'm just
well,
crazy.
like I
What am
said,
I
we need to
doing?
get together
I'm,
sometime and,
I'm like,
talk through that. I mean,
look,
it's fascinating to me because I think there's two groups, right, that we really are focused on. The first is those who aren't really sure they can afford, but actually after some personalized analysis and education, and they're just made aware they don't know what they don't know, they realize they can. And then there's this huge group actually of people who actually believe they can afford, but they feel overwhelmed and intimidated by the process. I was in New York the other day listening to a bunch of case studies, and because I love meeting customers too.
yeah.
And Cassandra Cardona was talking about how she's been looking for 2 years and had a lender and a real estate agent. But it wasn't until she went through the NestGen program that it all kind of clicked. And she also realized that maybe she should switch her agent and things like that at that point. And she bought within 2 months of the program. It's also the permission to say you're right, like giving people the data, giving people the experts and saying, okay, you can do this and here's what it looks like. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't tell you the future, but we can give you some educated guesses. We can leverage the HPIF data from CoreLogic to tell you this is what forward-looking appreciation looks like in that city for the next 5 years. We can use Rent-A-Meter to give you an understanding based on percentile of
I love
where it
Renometer.
should be. Right? Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's all baked in, right? So it's all baked into the platform. And then so we start to look at those things and start to say, okay, well, how do we help people? And then we give them the human that's checking in, right? And so,
Duty.
and the community is a huge part.
Huge part,
Yeah.
because it could be that point where, let's say they're 7 years into that buying cycle, right? And now they have a little extra money saved and they want to pull the trigger. It's easy to kind of throw that into a community that you've been a part of for a while. I'm thinking about buying my next investment property. What have you guys gone through? Could somebody share some of their stories,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Kind of takes away, puts them at ease. You start to get some information, and they're kind of
Totally.
now they're thinking again.
Well, that's exactly why we've been thinking about this. We'll always have a free tier, but this Nestment key, which is like the membership tier. And because I think there's again, one, like anytime you give something to somebody or ask somebody to pay for them, I want to make sure we're giving them at least 5x the rewards. And we are like off the bat, we're giving them like, you're paying that, you're going to get 5x that at the end of your close. But then on top of that, what we're finding is that there's also a really great opportunity to then be a part of a place that is having kind of community boards, having conversations with one another, obviously getting access to go into a new education cohort where you go through that with 150 people, right? We've now looked at doing one for the hospitality industry, artists and creatives. We have a ton of artists and creatives who are open to different models, and for them to do their art and their creativity, like a lot of them, if they can set themselves up with at least that primary multifamily, that they're all and not having to pay rent out of their pocket, but know that they have this growing asset, it allows them to actually continue to build what they want to build and bring into this world. And so I think we can unlock a lot of things for folks. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it's awesome. When was this founded? How long
Yeah,
ago?
so I joke that we're just getting out of July, but we're kind of a history of July moment. It was right at July 2022 was right after we did those like tests, those landing page tests I mentioned, and then we raised a bit of money to start to build. And then in July of 2023, we launched our V1 platform, first version of the platform. We did a partnership with an organization called Built, which has their like credit card and has a bunch of renters. And that was cool because then we got this first influx of demand, did our first 10 transactions in 2023. And then you're always trying to scale up by 3 to 5x each year, right? And so then 2024 is when we launched Nestgen, this kind of home buying accelerator program, and did over 50 transactions. And then 2025, we're launching Nestment Key coming out of this July too. And so we'll do a couple hundred transactions. And then the goal is just kind of progressively grow and build this. I mean, obviously we're at the lowest point in real estate transactions since 2009. But, it's nice to be outperforming the market. Not that it does affect us too, right? Like we've had people during that time of uncertainty between kind of March and May, we had more people pulling out of contracts that they were in than we had ever seen, right? Like it was just people felt very uncertain. And in my mind, it's actually not a bad thing because it plays into like, let's just kind of land grab as many customers as possible, bring them into the fold and say, we're
Yeah.
here for you.
Well, too, it's even with these downtimes, these are the times when you have to go even more full throttle
Oh,
and
completely.
you have to build that infrastructure. So when the next wave comes in, that you're ready for it.
Totally.
You know what I
And
mean?
what's cool is all of the providers, all the ecosystem partners, they're ready to partner with us. I mean, if we look at our lenders and the major brokerages, we're essentially giving them net new, ignored, often stuck customers, converting at a 2 to 3 times industry average. And we're reducing our acquisition costs by like 45% while not having them change their workflow really at all. They'll have a profile on our system and they'll be paired. I mean, everything that we're building right now is like, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, but we want people to feel like heroes of their own journey. I kind of see
That's a
Nestment.
great way to put
Yeah,
it.
it's like
Good way to put
the
it.
Nestment Concierge is like your mage. We're like Gandalf, but we're not the centerpiece, but we're like the person there who's helping you through bridging the system. And then you're going to meet these experts along the way, to your point, right? Who are going to help you through the system. You're going to have a little bit of that magic with the tools and the AI and so forth. And ultimately you're going to get to Mordor and get your ring, right? And that's your home. Yeah, I'm really kind of excited to say, how do we build that journey for folks? So
What has been some of the hardest things you've been going through recently?
I think the hardest thing, to be quite frank, is I think it's building a startup and thinking about venture funding versus bootstrapping versus things like that. Because we raised our pre-seed round during one of the frothiest moments, right as the VC dried up. And then
Okay.
so we raised some money. We hit our, and I'm pretty transparent about this, we hit all of our milestones. So we should have been raising the next round. But then it was mid 2023 and venture capital had dried up.
Yeah.
And the good part about that was it actually made us have to become really sustainable in a different way, right?
Scrappy.
So you had to be more scrappy. It's like when you have a ton of money there, and I see this with founders all the time. This is my third startup. And like when you have a lot of money there, you're also being pushed to burn that money because you're like, hey, go get to these goals. And so you're like pushing to get there. Like if someone said, hey, you only have this pile of money for 4 years, we're getting into our fourth year. I would spend it very differently than like, hey, there'll be money at the end of 18 months if you get to these places. That's a very different kind of strategy. The good news is that we have a lot of interested investors now coming in and saying like, hey, this is really interesting for us. But, I think there are those times where you had to be really scrappy, right? And you had to say, okay, well, what are the decisions we make with what we have and how do we continue to grow? And having to be that when you can see that, like, okay, you could be the next SoFi, right? You could be the next Chime, you could be the next Robinhood, because what SoFi did for credit and especially with student lending and Robinhood did with finance or Chime's doing with banking, we think we can be for home ownership because that is the biggest, I think, economic issue for a younger generation. And so I think there's a real possibility there. And so I think it's always figuring out, you hear about all the success stories, but there's a lot of things that take down great ideas. So you're always on the watch for that.
I can see that. I mean, you got to go through the pain as a founder. That's what makes the good story too when you're pitching.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like they want to have that scrappy. If it's too perfect, sometimes they're a little taken back. What are some of the questions investors ask you?
I think the biggest one we kind of get is like, why hasn't someone built this already? So
It's a
which is
valid
which is a
question.
fair question. And I think about how do you answer that? In some ways, there's kind of a unique confluence of moments here that are happening. Like 2021, everyone was buying. Like rates have just in the past couple of years really doubled. So you added that on top of price, and then you added these So I would say we're going through macro trends that are making this more needed than ever. So I think we're there. There are some people starting to build, which is actually what you want to see. You want to see that. But you also just had an industry that just has players that are so deeply rooted in the way they do things that it's really hard to get them out of that. And I think one of the benefits that we have is we're not trying to disrupt agents or lenders, which technology is always saying we're going to go and eat the agent's lunch, eat the lender's lunch, whatever. We're going to have a better way to do it. We're actually just trying to make things a lot more efficient for them and we're trying to be kind of that consumer advocate layer first. So I think we get a question of like, what you're doing feels like it could be very hard. But every day I see the answer to it because we get somebody who sends us an email. And by the way, 65% of our customers became investors on WeFunder. They're throwing house parties sponsored by us too when they get their homes. Like it's cool. It's
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, we just had this Brooklyn house party. This two couples bought a duplex in Brooklyn and they sent me the particle. I was like, man, I wish I could make it. But they're like, yeah. And they quoted Nestment there. And I was like, dude, I will pay for the drinks then. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Who's DJing there? I want to know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, so I mean, when you get that, when you have that much love, I mean, ultimately, and then there's always like you want to grow quicker in some ways, but like I said, we've grown every quarter, outpaced the real estate market, but I think growth could have been better in a better market, right? So you have to be able to explain that to investors, right? That you have to have investors who understand that the macro trends could be impacting. And that's the difference between like venture. Venture wants to see things scale, right? Out of like that's sometimes unnatural. And so you have to decide, does it make sense? And are those the right investors for you too? So,
And they're looking at other markets too. They're looking like,
yeah,
well, your growth is predicated on the housing market as a whole.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
no,
Like
totally.
supply and demand, like what is this inventory count? Because at
Yeah,
the end of the
that's a
day, you
great
can,
point. It's a
yeah,
great
you got
point.
people need to buy, so they need
Yep.
inventory to buy. But you're also helping a wide group of people that are doing all types of different strategies. They
Yeah,
could buy the single family and then build an ADU, right? And that could
exactly.
be two friends. And they're like,
Yep.
hey, you could buy this house and we're going to help you get a contractor. We could SB9 this, you now you guys have two houses, you move into it. Like there's all kinds of little,
There's all kind, and it's funny because every one of those scenarios, I can give you 2 to 3 stories of real customers who've done that. The Eagles in
really,
LA, right, in
that's
Highland
cool.
Park, they're saying like, "Hey, mom's has a little bit of cash. The kids, the son and his partner and his wife have good income but no cash, right? So they come together and they're like, let's buy this house with area for and buy and build the ADU. And by the way, the mom wants the ADU because it's going to be brand new, right? So like, so they come
Yes.
together, or two single mothers like who come together and do the same thing, and they're putting resources and they're going from renting to owning. We just had a really great one where it was a duplex with a mother who has a disabled son. And one of why she was just so impassioned about this is like, one, now with a duplex, her son will always have a place to live and he'll have income from that other unit, right? And so you hear these stories, man,
That's
and you're
cool.
just like, I mean, there's millions of other people like that who are trying to like figure out how to make it work. And this really is super important for them. And I think I just feel like we're not getting there, right? Because of the current system and how it's set up. So we're excited about all of this and excited to help everybody and anyone who wants to be a homeowner.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is great. It's totally at my wheelhouse because I love the whole creative part of aspect of doing developments. And you're right. I bring this up to I have followers that DM me on Instagram, like, well, where'd you get all the money to build the ADU? I own the land in Clear now. I bought the house. I got the house rented out. And
Yep,
now they're just going to give me a loan for 400,000 to build
exactly.
just outright.
Yeah.
And then as I go and I do that development, I'll take draws over time.
Mhm.
And then once it's done, I either going to sell that property or I'm going to refinance out
Yep.
and put a tenant in place.
Yeah.
Like they're like, wait, you can just get a loan standalone just for the ADU?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
But that's the thing. Information is very fragmented. You really have to spend a lot of time to get to that point,
Yeah.
right? I'll give a great example. So I've been 3 years of shooting content, right?
Mhm.
And running a podcast and like trying to keep all my thoughts in places. And we use Google Drive and we do this. And then I'm late to the game. I find Notion.
Yeah.
So what is Notion? I can go in there with anything inspirational content ideas. Everything is there. My team's there. My directory's there. Everything is there. So I know when I need to do something, I just go there. And that very similar could be with what you're doing.
Yep.
as somebody finds that platform, instead of going, hey, I saw this, and then have to like think all these steps in their head, they just need to go to the platform,
Yep. Yep.
put the question in, whether that question starts in just a automated DM kind of thing
Mhm.
that gets that going.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden someone gets back and they go, hey, well, yes, we know how to do that. Yes, you could buy that single family and you can get a standalone loan. And we do have contractors.
Yeah.
You just
Exactly.
bridge the gap of that person's thought process
Completely. Completely.
completely.
Yeah. You've given them the information. You've then also given them the opportunity to schedule time with someone who knows
Yes.
about that, right?
Yeah.
And then you ideally know their personalized situation. So you're like, hey, we can make some actual recommendations because there's information which we get, right, from chat, from Claude, whatever, information. But then there's kind of the execution of that information or the personalization of that information based on what you have. And eventually, obviously chat will know all these things. So, but then there's the personalization. And then there's honestly that some level of human reinforcement and trust that you'd kind
Yeah.
of need to take that final step, right? And so I think you kind of bring those three things together. But yeah, man, I'd love to chat more about this stuff with you because this would be super super awesome just to get your ideas on what we're building and things like that. So,
Yeah. You got me like, I was like sparking all kinds of crazy
oh,
ideas.
I know. Let's grab a beer and let's or come up to the office and we got tons of whiteboards and
Yeah, let's do
yeah.
it. I
Yeah, if you
will.
ever want to have an event there too, we've got a great downstairs space too. So yeah, it's cool. Like sometimes I'll do podcasts and it's great and you say the information, but this was a true conversation and I really liked it and appreciated that. So that
That's
was cool.
awesome. I'm glad to talk to you. I love,
Yeah,
it's cool to see people putting themselves out there and going with an idea. I think it's a great thing. And that's how we get change. And
exactly,
people, you know
man.
what I mean? Like you got to think out of the box, put some work in and go through all of those ups and downs to get to that end part where you bring a product there that, people truly, truly want. And
Yeah.
then you get that gratification out of it. So it's really cool. And I appreciate you telling me everything about that today. I love getting off on a podcast where I just get super inspired by what other people are doing. It's great to hear. And it's so true, especially here in Silicon Valley.
Yep.
People grind it out.
Yeah.
People make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And other people in other states that go, oh, you're making 200,000. Like, well, for that person, 200,000, not a lot of money here to buy
Yeah.
a house.
Yep.
People sit back. So this is just a amazing solution and I just think it's great. So yes, we
Amazing. Well,
will.
no, thank you for having a platform where we can share it with more people. I mean, our biggest thing is just letting people know we exist. So I appreciate you for doing that. So
Absolutely. So
awesome.
where can the audience find you?
Yeah, you can go to nestment.com, right? And jump in. That's nestment.com. There's a quiz on there. Right now, we're accepting applications for our Nest Gen. It's all free. So just check it out. We're here to make you a successful homeowner. So I'm really excited.
Fantastic. Well,
Awesome.
thanks a lot, Niles. I
Thank
really
you, Steven.
appreciate it.
I appreciate you, bud. All
All
right,
right, man. Have a great day.
cool. I'll stay
Bye.
on. So yeah.
Thank you for tuning into our show, where we hope you found inspiration and gained valuable insights. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to stay updated on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and share it with others who might benefit from it. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more candid conversations and breakthrough moments in the future. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new ideas and strategies.